Coming up on the November 10th edition of Carolina Week.
I'm Courtney Robinson in the newsroom. I'll have a look at UNC's proposal for the Pentagon.
An increase in break-ins near campus, what you can do to stay safe.
And why Carolina's football game this weekend against Wake Forest is more important than any other game the Heels have played this season.
Plus, your Carolina Week 4-day forecast.
All that and more.
Carolina Week starts now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Eiler.
And I'm Lydia Garlikov. Thanks for joining us for the Wednesday edition of Carolina Week. Right now, American troops are fighting in the center of Fallujah. Soldiers are facing street-to-street battles as they try to secure the city in order to pave the way for democratic elections in January. Troops are expecting at least several more days of tough fighting as they try to rid the city of rebel forces. For many Carolina students, these images that come from a city 7,000 miles away seem surreal. But for several Carolina students, such as Emron Huda, these images are a daily reality. He's on active duty with North Carolina's 30th Heavy Separate Brigade in Iraq. Carolina Week contacted him on Tuesday. He said he was in the middle of a 12-hour shift and fasting for the month of Ramadan because he's Muslim. You can check out his updates on his website, which we've linked to ours, www.carolinaweek.org.
The University of North Carolina system could soon become much more connected to the military. Carolina Week reporter Courtney Robinson is in the newsroom with more. Courtney?
Thanks, Amanda. The UNC system is teaming up with the Research Triangle Institute. Together, they'll try to partner up with the Pentagon and defense contractors to make North Carolina the top producer of biotechnology-related military products. RTI is checking out sites in the Triangle for the North Carolina DoD initiative. It's a program that would work at a fast pace, similar to how it happens in this lab on campus. A researcher, the person who makes the product, and the person with the knowledge of the actual need all work together to avoid a drawn-out process and put biotechnological products on the market quickly. The military would then use these new products, mainly things such as food that grows back after you eat it, and new disease-fighting drugs. The leader of RTI's role in the initiative says this will open many doors for North Carolina.
Look at this as from an economic development perspective, as a mothership with jobs being created and exporting across North Carolina.
Helms is going to present his business plan to Pentagon officials next month. UNC is the main university involved with the project, but private universities such as Duke and Wake Forest would participate as well.
That's interesting. Now, Courtney, why is North Carolina the right place to get this project going?
Amanda, one thing that Helms pointed out to me was just that there's a lot of military activity in North Carolina with bases like Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, and the state should do more to capitalize on this potential industry.
Courtney Robinson reporting from the newsroom. Thanks, Courtney.
Privatization. It's a growing trend that's becoming common talk at many of the nation's top public universities. And some folks wonder if UNC Chapel Hill is next. Students gathered in Bingham Hall Monday night to hear a panel of professionals list the pros and cons of privatization. Provost Robert Shelton says privatization would increase student tuition and decrease scholarship opportunities, so he doesn't foresee UNC ever becoming privatized. But event co-chair Elizabeth Bird says privatization would allow the university to acquire top-notch teachers.
One thing privatizing does, whether I'm for it or against it, but one huge asset to privatizing is increasing endowments, which increase faculty retention and recruitment.
The discussion served only as an information session about privatization. Currently, the issue isn't a top priority at the university.
Something that remains an issue on campus is the election. So it's over. Now what? The North Carolina Black Student Alliance held a forum titled Just That, during which students could ask questions about the past election and the future to a panel including 2 UNC professors and a member of the Young Democrats. The college Republican panelists left an empty seat. Dr. Archie Irvin and Professor Timothy McMillan agreed that the main issue was religious values, which President Bush stressed to help him win re-election.
It's been a week since President Bush sealed that re-election.
But the buzz across town about the results hasn't died down yet. Carolina Week reporter Elizabeth Storch takes a look at the historical implications of this year's election.
Many people have drawn comparisons between last week's election and that of 2000. But are there really more similarities than differences? Jim Stimson, a political analyst and UNC professor, says the 2004 election has one key difference.
Both sides were more animated than is typically the case. Particularly the contrast is striking with 2000, where both sides were bored.
Farrell Guillory says issues relevant to voters are what affects turnout.
When the American people, including college students, feel that an election really matters to them, they will come out and vote. What really drives people to the polls is an intense election. And this was an intense election. But to say that it's an intense election doesn't necessarily mean it's historic in the overall sense, in the overall sweep of American history.
Guillory and Stimson agree on the election's place in U.S. history.
You know, it's hard to say an election isn't historic. They all are, but this one doesn't seem to be of any larger consequence than others.
Some political analysts say this election was no more historic than those in the past. But for students who gathered in the Student Union on Wednesday to watch Kerry's concession speech, it may have felt more important.
I think first-time voters always think that this is an historic election. Certainly this election was interesting in another way, and that's the intensity on both sides was just beyond all of our recent experience.
So the candidates rallied hard, but not much harder than candidates in past elections. In Chapel Hill, I'm Elizabeth Storch, Carolina Week.
One thing that is a bit different this time is the bitter divide that remains between Republicans and Democrats.
The South changed the outcome of the presidential election, and some say we still need to make changes in the South. Tuesday, acclaimed writer and lecturer Jim Clinton read excerpts from his latest project, Journey to the Center of the South, and told students and professors childhood stories of growing up in the segregated South. He also gave his interpretations of race relations today.
The white folk have it differently. The white folk think that we solved it in the 60s, that by going through all of that and by passing those laws, that it's fixed now. You can't discriminate. Black folk know a much different reality.
Clinton also says once people feel comfortable expressing their feelings in a safe environment, we can face racism head on.
They say don't judge a book by its cover.
But for one local farmer, it's more like don't judge a man by his flannel shirt.
There's a vacation village near Orlando that's unlike any other. It's called Give Kids the World. It brings a week of joy to children with life-threatening illnesses, and it's absolutely free for their families. Call Give Kids the World or log on, and please, help give them a time to remember.
Once you see the world through math and science, you'll never see anything the same way again. Go to girlsgotech.org.
You'll see.
Imagine coming home, only to find that an unwanted visitor just left. For a group of Carolina girls, that was the scene this past weekend. Carolina Week reporter Derek Rochelle is live in the studio with more. Derek?
Thanks, Lydia. Police and safety officials are always urging students to be careful and to safeguard their belongings. Those warnings have taken on added meaning in the past several days.
For Adrian Rayleigh, it was a frightening moment.
I was mad as fire. First thing I said was, who left the door unlocked? I was absolutely terrified, and when I got here, I didn't want to touch anything.
7 girls living at 217 Vance Street found their back door wide open Saturday morning, and 2 digital cameras and a ring missing. The intruder also took something even more valuable from Rayleigh and her roommates.
The 3 of us that live on this bottom floor all slept in the same room last night with a baseball bat and the door locked. And we put a chair in front of the front door.
According to Chapel Hill Police, this house on Vance Street is the site of one of 70 reported break-ins since October 1st, with 20 break-in reports in the Macaulay Street area alone. Of those 20, 5 calls reported someone was in the house at the time. It's those 5 that Chapel Hill Police spokeswoman Jane Cousins worries about.
And what's particularly frightening is that people were home sleeping and doors were unlocked and somebody came in and stole things. So definitely to keep doors locked.
Rayleigh takes some responsibility for the break-in at her place.
We could be more careful in that it might have been our fault. The door might have been unlocked. Who knows? But I know that we are taking every precaution that we can really think of.
Now, police suggest taking other precautions, such as installing outdoor lighting, securing windows, and keeping serial numbers of identifiable items in case police do recover them after they've been stolen. Lydia, back to you.
Derek Rochelle, live in the studio. Thanks, Derek.
If you frequently park on Cameron Avenue, you might be looking for another spot soon. Chapel Hill Town Council passed a resolution that will decrease the number of on-street parking spaces from 90 to 50. It will add a 5-foot wide striped bike lane and leave 12-foot wide travel lanes in both directions. Bicyclist Wayne Pine spoke out against the proposal at Monday night's meeting, saying the street is fine the way it is.
Traffic is slow. Bicyclists can use as much or as little of the road as they want. Everyone is coexisting just fine on Cameron.
The proposal also includes the possibility of adding parking meters. According to the town manager, restriping of Cameron Avenue could be completed as early as this winter.
The flu vaccine shortage has many people worried about catching the troublesome virus, but Student Health can now offer some relief to people at high risk from developing complications from the flu. The center received 1,000 doses of the vaccine, but it's not available to just anyone. Patients must fill out a questionnaire and be identified as high risk to get a dose. Medical Director Mary Covington says although the vaccine is still in short supply, there are basic things everyone can do to prevent getting the flu.
The key to this is washing hands, washing hands. The other thing is, from a community perspective, is to try and, if you're sick, to not go out, don't go to class, don't go to the dining hall, get someone to bring in your meals.
Students who think they're at a high risk of developing complications should contact Student Health or other flu vaccine clinics for more information. A local farmer with international flair.
Carolina Week's Nora Warren brings us the story of a man who's not your average Old MacDonald.
Dan Graham looks like a typical North Carolina farmer. His skin is weathered and his hands are rough. The price of more than 50 years of carpentry and farming. But don't let the flannel shirt and old cap fool you. Graham isn't your typical farmer.
As I look back over my life, it's almost as if I have lived 4 times because
Graham has lived almost half his life in the South Pacific. He moved to the Philippines after World War II to teach on an Air Force base. And after a few years, he'd saved enough money to buy some land and start farming.
I got that land for something like a penny an acre. It just seemed that everything I touched turned out beautifully.
But when the Philippine government became too oppressive, Graham left his farm and 20 years of work for the nearby islands of Micronesia. There, he fell in love with the culture and the countryside.
I could go out a mile from the farm and into the canyons, the big river there, and see monkeys up in the trees and beautiful orchids growing.
That tiny country was also a political chaos. So again, Graham packed up and moved to Pittsboro, taking little more than his family, his memories, and this seashell collection with him.
Growing these exotic vegetables helps Graham keep his Asian memories alive, and he shares that history with the locals here at the Carborough Farmers Market.
Every once in a while, he shares more than just memories with his customers.
The Filipino will come through, and it'll always surprise the daylights out of them to find that I speak their languages. The Indians call it Karela, the Chinese Kugwa.
These days, Graham's son, Louis, does most of the work on the farm, while Graham is keeping busy restoring this old Model A Ford. Although the engine is dusty and the old horn just won't seem to blow, this old farmer is convinced the Ford still has a story to tell. And so does Graham. He's in the process of writing his memoirs.
My children say, Papa, you just got to put that in, write it down so we'll have something to remember.
So far, he's written about 35 pages, and like him, the stories aren't typical. In Pittsboro, I'm Nora Warren, Carolina Week.
Now, during the winter months, Graham spends his time helping his son with the cedar business.
He has to wait until the spring for another planting season. Well, it sure hasn't been feeling like spring around here. Weathercaster Rob Ellis joins us now.
Rob, for the first time this semester, I wore a sweater.
Yeah, it's been that kind of weather. We're not seeing those tropical conditions of Micronesia that we saw in that last piece, but it's actually been some of the coolest temperatures we've seen so far this season, but it's been pretty nice during the day, and as you can see from some of this video that we're going to show, these students are taking advantage of these sunny days while they can, and I'll let you know if you can expect clear skies the rest of this week coming up.
Recycling a glass bottle saves enough energy to run the TV you're watching for 1 full hour. Recycle. It's the everyday way to save the world. Making a can from recycled aluminum instead of from raw materials reduces air pollution by 95%. Recycle. It's the everyday way to save the world. Recycling all our Sunday papers would save over 500,000 trees a week. Recycle. It's the everyday way to save the world.
Women today are fighting for their lives. More than half of the new HIV infections are among women, and if you don't think you're at risk, think again. I'm Rebecca Armstrong, and I am one of more than 1 million Americans living with HIV today. I got infected because I didn't think I was at risk, but I'm alive today because I got tested and I got treatment. Do yourself a favor. Get tested for HIV today. You can call this number for more information to find out where.
Hi, and welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm weathercaster Rob Ellis. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our weather headlines. You can see to start out the weekend, we're going to have a rainy start. We are going to have a system that will be moving into our area starting on Friday. It's going to bring us some rain, but throughout the period, we're going to see cool conditions, these same cool conditions we've seen all throughout this week, those crisp, very cold nights, and the daytimes are still going to be very cool, but not quite as bad as those overnight low temperatures that have been in the freezing mark in some areas. Weekend clearing, that's what we're going to see after that system moves out of our area. It'll bring with it, it'll take the rain along with it, and we'll see that clearing go through Saturday into Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite and see what's happening. There's two major features that are going to be players in our weather. The first thing that you're going to see is this very well-defined low-pressure system, and the other thing that's maybe not so clearly defined is a high-pressure system that's just off to our northeast. And you can see for North Carolina area, we're clear right now, but some of these clouds will be moving in. As this low-pressure system begins to bring some of that Gulf moisture up into our area, that's going to increase our chance for some rainy weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at the surface map. Here's that low pressure I was talking about. Here's that high pressure. Around the high pressure, it'll bring this Gulf moisture into our area, and as that pushes into North Carolina, that'll bring us the chance for some showers and thunderstorms. There's a boundary here. Some of this cool air is going to be coming with it after that low pressure system moves into our area and then moves out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-day forecast, see what's going to be happening specifically in our area. See, Friday we're going to have that chance of rain in our area as that low pressure system moves through. Temperature of about 55 degrees. Low overnight is going to be about 35, so we're not quite to the freezing mark. With some of these clouds still lingering from that system, we're not going to have those cool nights that we normally get when it's a crisp, clear evening. The heat can't escape. But that's not going to be the case throughout the rest of the weekend. Saturday you can see 53 there, but as some of those clouds part, you can see our low temperature is going to get below the freezing mark around 30 degrees. On Sunday, we do get rid of all those clouds finally. We have some clearing, 55 degrees for your high, low of 30. And on Monday, it's going to be a little bit warmer. Sun's going to peek through, 59 degrees, 32 for your low. Let's go ahead and take a look east if you're heading out to the beach. High temperature 55, low overnight 34. Sunday, 60 degrees, so a little bit warmer, not too bad if you're heading down to Wilmington or the Outer Banks. Low overnight of 35, and if you're heading the other direction out west to the mountains, maybe to Asheville, high of 51, low overnight 30. You can see clear skies throughout this forecast period. Temperatures are going to be 56 for your high on Sunday, 31 overnight low on Sunday, and so those sweaters are here to stay. You're going to have those out for quite a while until next spring when you can put them away.
Wonderful. Now I know everyone probably won't agree with me, but I'm definitely a big fan of the fall weather.
It's not for everybody, but some people really like those crisp days.
Definitely. Thanks, Rob.
No problem.
Another thing I'm a big fan of, besides the cold weather, is football. But Ann, what am I supposed to do this weekend now that we have an away game?
Just because the game's at Wake, don't worry, there's lots of things for you to go see. Women's soccer, field hockey, volleyball, lots of stuff for you to go see. And it'll be indoors, some of it, so you'll be keeping warm. Coming up on Carolina Week Sports, fans follow the heels without rhyme or reason. We'll bring you that story from this fall sports season.
Throughout my career as a coach, I've lived by the simple axiom that
behind every individual success story is a team. The success of Durham Public Schools does not depend on one of us, but all of us.
through community involvement and support, we can take a giant step in helping our children achieve their hopes and dreams. You're going to walk with me, and I'm going to help you to be that great soccer player.
I propose 3 cheers for those we leave behind.
Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations. Proud of you. All right. Anson Elliott. Who's going to salute him? Guys, who gets to salute him first?
Welcome back to Carolina Week Sports. I was too short for the volleyball team and too slow for the softball team, so I'm Ann Sexton and I'm here with you. Has the world turned upside down? UNC and Wake Forest are playing important games in November, and it's football, not basketball. Even though this kick was short, the Heels have 2 games left to determine if they can go bowling. Ranked 113th in the nation against the run, the Heels defense faces a big test as the Carolina D takes on Wake Forest, another team that likes to pound the rock. But hey, the Heels have the usual suspects on offense like Durant and Mason, but the biggest surprise the past 2 weeks has been senior Chad Scott. To be in position as one of the last teams standing during the holiday season, it's going to take a total team effort to hold off those feisty Deeks.
This is the biggest game of the season. You know, if we don't win, we don't go to a bowl game. And obviously, that's the most important thing that we're thinking about right now. But we're thinking about beating Wake Forest, and we're thinking about playing hard and playing our best game of the season.
Chad Scott and the Heels will face off against their in-state rivals at high noon Saturday in Winston-Salem. If you're a true sports fan, and you know if you are, you'll follow your team closely from both near and afar. Because in sports there's defeat and hopefully glory. Carolina Week's Luke Notstein's in Chapel Hill with this story.
The Fever fans in the stands like to throw up their hands. When they see a great play, it makes them say, "Oh man!" At one time in the Hill, fans adored MJ. If things go well now, the love could be for Sean May. Not long ago, J. Pep was a work of art. Versus the Canes this year, it was the golden boot of Connor Barth. Early in the season, critics questioned the team's worth. 2 more wins now could earn a bowl berth. And with goals like these, defenders think of her highly. You want your team to win? Call up Heather O'Reilly. And just in case you ever get in a fight, on your side you'd want the toughness of Katie Wright. And if you don't know who these athletes are, you should start paying attention. They're all big, huge stars. Go out to the games for your cheers they need to hear for them to be successful in this great sports year. If you don't like what I have to say, come on, just go to the games. You don't even have to pay. Some might say this is a shameless sports plug, but look at all the people who have caught the fever bug. Just walk around campus. The spirit is contagious. Go to a game, I guarantee you'll see the outrageous. If you're not at any of the games, this reporter will retort. I'm Luke Notstein, Carolina Week Sports.
With the soccer team going down to the wire and basketball heating up, fans can only hope the teams catch fire as they go for the treasured cup. Tuesday night meant a lot to the Tar Heel swim team. It was a chance for another ACC victory, an opportunity to gain Carlisle Cup points, but most importantly, it was against Duke. UNC was leaping for the cup at Corey Natatorium, with both the men's and women's team dominating the lanes with strong swimming in individual and also in relay events. The diving team kept up pace, sweeping the men's diving in 2 events. The Tar Heel men decimated Duke, 213-84, while the women also emerged with a healthy 105-point edge against the Blue Devils. Both UNC teams are looking good in the ACC at 2-0. And Coach Frank Comfort likes watching his opponent leave defeated.
It was a great meet today. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to get ready for Nike Cup next week. And plus, it's always great to beat Duke anytime, anywhere, any place.
UNC is now ahead of Duke and Carlisle Cup points, 5-3. From kicking water to kicking soccer balls, the men's ACC tournament starts Wednesday night in Cary. The third-seeded Tar Heels will lead things off with a match against number 6 seed NC State. Carolina's 9-7 overall record isn't that impressive, but the team is on a hot streak, winning 7 of its past 9 games. To win its first tourney title since 2001, the Heels will have to make it through top-ranked Wake Forest and number 2 seed Maryland. The 2004 NCAA Women's Soccer Tournament seedings are out, and the unbeaten Tar Heels with a record of 18-0-2 are the number 1 seed. That means Carolina will host 2 tournament games. The first game is Thursday at 4 p.m. against Campbell, and the winner of that game will play the William & Mary Virginia Tech winner Saturday at 4. The Tar Heels are also the number 1 team in the country in field hockey and will play host to the Richmond Spiders Saturday at 11 a.m. in first-round tournament action. The winner of that game will then go on to face either Duke or Old Dominion Sunday at 2. Well, with field hockey and a lot of other action going on, you can't forget to actually get your bracelets for basketball season. So there's a lot of action, but stuff you got to do. So.
Great.
Thanks, Ann. Well, if there's something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call?
Well, Lydia, if you're talking about the Heels possibly going to a bowl game and you need some Tar Heel spirit, you might want to give a call to this man and his Carolina Heel Raiser.
There is really only one boy, one girl, one tree, one forest, one ocean, one mountain, one sky, and one simple way to care for it all. Please visit earthshare.org and learn how the world's leading environmental groups are working together under one name, Earthshare. One environment, one simple way to care for it.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNCCH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
Lots of people around here have lots of things that are baby blue.
But one Chapel Hill resident is out to bury the competition when it comes to showing his school spirit. You can take one look at John Snipes and know he's a Carolina fan, but it doesn't stop with his Carolina blue shoes. His car says it all.
They see it first as it is painted up with the graphics and all that, and then they notice, that it's a hearse, and they kind of their expression changes somewhat when they think, a hearse.
Meet the Heel Raiser, a hearse turned into one big tribute to the Tar Heels, from its Carolina blue exterior to the ram on the hood to the horn that does everything from mocking state fans to getting a pretty girl's attention. It's hard to miss.
My ultimate thrill is when I drive through Chapel Hill and people have seen it before, or in the future as they remember it, they'll yell out the name or they'll wave to it.
And there's nothing fair weather about Heel Raiser fans.
This car may be the coolest thing to ever happen to death.
I would take a ride laying down in it. I would prefer to be buried in that hearse.
Although Snipes has no immediate plans to use the hearse for funerals, he does have something else in mind.
I think it would be fabulous to cruise out of the tunnel in the Heel Raiser, out of the smoke and the sparklers and such, leading the team on the field with cheerleaders sitting atop it and running alongside of it, and Ramses leading the way.
It promises to be an opening unlike any other. Now, I definitely look forward to the openings of games, and I will look forward to them even more if he does everything he says he's going to do with that car.
Well, this past weekend, Carolina picked up quite an honor. Carolina Week won Best Sportscast in the nation at the Collegiate Broadcaster Student Production Awards.
We want to recognize our hardworking sports team. We appreciate all that you do.
I think that's going to do it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for watching. Good night.